now we come to chapter 18, verse 1. And we read again, saints, after these things. So as we know now we're changing subjects totally. In 17, we were in the subject of the woman in the wilderness. That one that had that apostasy, that falling away, that leaving the kingdom of God and riding in on the beast, going with the world and the kingdoms of the world in this new kingdom that's rising up, the kingdom of the antichrist, the kingdom of the beast. That was chapter 17. And now John says again, after these things. So we're totally changing subjects. Now we're going to the country, the commerce, the kingdom, the city, the nation of Babylon. And I saw another angel. And what do we know now, saints? Another angel, another message from God. So John is changing subjects from the religion, that woman in the wilderness that left God and went with the kingdom of the beast. Now he's changing subjects, and we have another angel. So we have another message from God. And let's see what it says here. Coming down from heaven, having great authority. This angel with this great authority, this message carries a lot of weight. Great authority and weight is given to this angel in this message. And the earth was illumined with his glory. So this message is coming to the earth. Though all the nations, this is going to concern, involve all the nations of the earth, the whole earth, including Babylon. And so now we see in verse 2, and he, that angel, cried out with a mighty voice. The strong, the powerful word of God. We've changed subjects. We have this angel. We have a new message with great authority. And it's illumining the whole earth. And he cried out with a mighty voice, saying, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. So this is already fallen. This is now going to describe the fall of Babylon, the result of the fall of Babylon. Because we saw in the first 4 trumpets that was our day one of the tribulation. That all 4 of those first 4 trumpets were messages to God's people that Babylon had fallen. It was all describing just one event. An asteroid hitting in an ocean off the coast of New York City and the Washington, D.C. area. And so now this has to do with Babylon already having fallen. Because the first thing this angel says is, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. So Babylon fell in the first 4 trumpets. And now this is a message about the results of that. The results of Babylon falling. And the results upon the rest of the world. Because Babylon has already fallen, as he said there. And she has become a dwelling place of demons and a prison of every unclean spirit and a prison of every unclean and hateful bird. So Babylon, as we're going to see through some verses in the Old Testament, and from here, it's a devastating fall in 1 hour of 1 day as an asteroid hits. And then, as it says here, because this is fallen is Babylon the Great, and she has become, right after she's fallen, a dwelling place of demons and a prison of a very unclean spirit and a prison of a very unclean and hateful birds. These unclean and hateful birds or beasts, it has to do with spirits of darkness. So now she has become a prison, a dwelling place of these unclean, evil spirits because she's fallen. She's fallen hard, and we're going to see the results of that. And if you've heard my messages and seen my other ones, Babylon is the united. Babylon is the world, but the city of Babylon, the government of Babylon, the center of Babylon is the United States, and especially the New York City and Washington, D.C. area. As we go on, you'll see that. Don't let other people try to tell you other things. It'll become so clear. Stick with these messages and find that out. So verse 3, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of the passion of her immorality. So she has this immorality about her. And all the nations have drunk of the wine of the passion of her immorality. And the kings of the earth have committed acts of immorality with her. Remember, we said that. We saw that too in the woman when she's riding in on the beast. She's committing acts of immorality, and she's committing acts of immorality with the kings of the earth. She is committing acts leading up to and the fall of Babylon. She's committing acts of immorality. The religion and the nations are all one. They have this union. They have this deep relationship. And they are all committing these acts of immorality because they love the world. They love the flesh. They love the things of the world. Christians that are so worried about these things are not to love the world, but they'll just declare they love the world. They'll declare they love their country, the United States or other countries. They'll declare they love it. They'll declare they'll die for it. But we're not to love the world. Babylon's the heart of the world. It's the glory of the world. It's the high place of the world. And so many Christians love it and say they love it. But these kings of the earth, Babylon, the religious Babylon, and these kings of the earth were all committing these acts of immorality. They were all involved with each other. And remember, Babylon, the commercial, the country, the kingdom of Babylon falls in 1 hour of one day. But the religious Babylon carries on to nearly the end of the tribulation, to the last half of the tribulation. Because remember, she's that woman. She's the church as a whole, the tares and the wheat. Remember, the Lord said, let them grow up together. It's the tares and the wheat together. And by the end, through the pre-tribulation rapture and the mid-tribulation rapture, the wheat has been taken, and all that's left is the tares. And that's chapter 17. And she goes with the kingdom of the beast. That's supposed to be faithful to God, that's supposed to be the church, goes with the beast, sits on the back of the beast. But the beast, remember, in the last half of the tribulation, have a common purpose with God. And they put an end to her. They destroy her. We saw that. The 10 horns which you saw and the beast. These will hate the harlot and will make her desolate and naked and will eat her flesh and will burn her up with fire. So Babylon, the nation, falls in 1 hour of one day at the beginning of the tribulation. Babylon, religion, this is not throughout. This is that's left. It's just the religion. She's there at the beginning. There's just the religious church that's just religion at the beginning of the tribulation in that woman, the tares and the wheat. But by the end of the tribulation, by the last half of the tribulation, it's just tares. For the wheat has been taken in the harvest, in the pre-tribulation harvest in chapter 14, 1 through 5. And then the mid-tribulation harvest, the harvest of the wheat. So now we have just Babylon religion left. And she is committing acts of immorality with the kings of the earth, including Babylon going up to the tribulation. But once the tribulation happens and Babylon falls, she goes straight, as she always does, to the kings, to the power, to the money, to the influence. And she rode on that beast. But now we have these kings of the earth. They've committed acts of immorality with Babylon. And the merchants, listen here, saints, last part of verse 3. And the merchants of the earth have become rich. What other country, as we go on, we're going to go through these and we'll see this. There's only one country. If America keeps falling into this sin and this blindness, she may not be there much longer. But other countries like China, if there's 100 years left, could be. But for now, we'll see that only the United States can be Babylon. And let's start there again. And the merchants of the earth have become rich. What other country is buying goods from every country in the world? We've made China rich. We make Europe rich. We make smaller countries, poor countries in Africa, Central America, South America rich by them selling us. We buy products and goods from all over the world. And the merchants, these merchants of the earth have become rich. Listen here, saints, by the wealth of her sensuality. Sensuality. What does that mean? It means her, Babylon's desire for luxury, her overindulgence, overabundance, sensuality. As you see here, different translations use different words, but for us now, sensuality, they all mean the same thing. It's the endless pursuit of pleasure. And that's what America's come down to. You can't hardly get people to work anymore. Some people's pleasure is drugs and alcohol, and they're on the streets like zombies. All they care about is pleasure. Other people's pleasure is money, especially in America. Enough is never enough. Big companies run little companies out of business. One big company like Amazon can run out of business 100, 200, millions of small businesses, but they're never happy. Enough is never enough. Everybody wants everything they can suck out of the life of every small person. They live for that sensuality, that luxury, saints, that overindulgence. That's what it's saying about Babylon. And the merchants of the earth became rich by the wealth. America's the richest country in the world. We have more. More countries buy into our stock market, our money, our land, everything. And the merchants of the earth have become rich by the wealth of her sensuality, her desire for luxury. Look at all these people. It's never enough, especially the younger people growing up. They don't want to work. They don't want to do nothing. They want luxury. And somehow it just keeps getting poured on people. And it's overindulgence in drugs, in alcohol, in money, in fame, in power. It's overindulgence everywhere. It's overabundance. American poor people now have more than, you go back 100 years back through the history of man, and America's poor people got more than most people ever had in the earth, other than the very richest people. But they're always complaining. It's never enough. That's our overabundance, our overneed, our importing things from all over the world. And like I said, sensuality is the endless pursuit of pleasure in any direction. So what is the fall of Babylon? Before we go on with it, let's read a little bit about it. I'm not going to say much about it. You've heard my messages. If you haven't, go see them on the fall of Babylon, especially the trumpets. And you've heard these things. Listen to what in the Old Testament, it's all a wheel within a wheel, saints. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. In Babylon, God's people were taken slaves by Babylon in a preordained plan of God. And when it was time, he called them out, but only a remnant come out. And when Babylon fell, the rest fell with Babylon. But let's look at Isaiah chapter 13. I'm just going to read these. Remember the things we've studied, the things we've learned. You put them together. Wail, for the day of the Lord is near. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands will fall limp, and every man's heart will melt. And they will be terrified. This is speaking about Babylon and the fall of Babylon. And remember so many things we've talked about. And we're in Isaiah 13, starting in verse 6. We're at verse 8 now. And they will be terrified. Pains and anguish will take hold of them. They will writhe like a woman in labor. They will look at one another in astonishment, their faces aflame. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming. When Babylon falls, the day of the Lord is coming. It's not at the end. We're going to see that as we go on in these messages. Chapter 8 will be more than one, 18 will be more than one message. And we're going to see so clearly that Babylon falls at the beginning of the tribulation, not at the end, as so many of those on the broad road to destruction try to tell you. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, cruel, with fury and burning anger, to make the land a desolation. He will exterminate its sinners from us. Look how much sin is going on in America, from the partying, the drugs, the alcohol, the excess, the money. I mean, you just couldn't end with it. It's just everywhere. Politicians are so crooked, and Christians getting elected into the Senate and the House, and they say they're very good Christians. They have big churches, but they go in there, and the first thing they want is abortion rights, gay rights, trans rights. And they say they're Christians, and they go in there and fight for abortion up to birth. Come on, saints, wake up. That's the religious Babylon. Verse 10. Listen here, saints, remember what we read about the trumpets and the end times. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not flash forth their light. The sun, we're talking about Babylon. Remember the asteroid. This isn't the world. This is Babylon. And where that asteroid hits, for the stars of heaven and their constellations will not flash forth their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shed its light. Thus I will punish the world. Remember, Babylon's the world, but it has its country, its origin, its city, its military center. Thus I will punish the world for its evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will also put an end to the arrogance of the proud, and abase the haughtiness of the ruthless. I will make mortal man scarcer than pure gold. Not on the earth. We've seen where life's going to go on the earth. The king of the beast is going to rise up. People are going to be given gifts. This is talking about where the asteroid hits in Babylon. I will make mortal man scarcer than pure gold, and mankind than the gold of Ophir. Therefore, I shall make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken. Remember the giant earthquake that splits the city into 3 parts and shakes the earth? Therefore, I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken from its place at the fury of the Lord of hosts, in the day of his burning anger. And it will be that like a hunted gazelle, or like sheep which have none to gather them, they will each turn to his own people. This country, Babylon, is being flooded. We're going to see more verses on that as we go through Babylon. It's being flooded by people legally, and right now by the tens of millions illegally, flooding this country. And that's going to be so important as we go on with these messages. But for now, they will each turn to his own people, and each flee to his own land. Once Babylon falls, and there's way more we'll see about this. Once Babylon falls, they will each turn to his own people, and each flee to his own land. Anyone who is found will be thrust through, and anyone who is captured will fall by the sword. And let's read verse 19 to 19 also right now, saints. Isaiah 13:19. And Babylon, the beauty of kingdoms, the glory of the Chaldeans' pride, will be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah.